Hi, everybody. I'm Ronnie.
Hello, and I'm Jenny, and we are.
We're the Heart and Soul Sisters. And you might notice that we're dispensing with our groovy music today because we just aren't feeling it. And we actually are doing a special podcast today, a very short podcast. We want to, in keeping with the trend that's been on social media to elevate the voices of our brothers and sisters of color. We are not going to do a normal podcast, but we did want to say just a few things and then point you to some resources that we think might be helpful. So, Jenny, you want to start?
Yes, I do. This has been eye-opening, I think, for a lot of people in our community and around the world. And I just wanted to share that, I have been blessed to have friends of over my whole life uh, of color from many different backgrounds, and my husband has as well. My husband's been in law enforcement for 30 years, and we we have four wonderful kids, and one of our daughters is currently dating a just beautiful man who just happens to be black. And this certainly has been very difficult to watch and feel so powerless as a person with privilege, um, and to hear people's comments. And I've been very fortunate to have a marvelous sister who's a sociologist and a niece who's a social worker as well, point me in the direction of some podcasts and different resources to read to try to better educate myself on the plight of our brothers and sisters of color and what I can do to try to help make things better. And so that's what we wanted to share today. And Ronnie, you had some information that you wanted to share.
Yeah, if you're listening to this as an audio, you may have guessed but may not know entirely. Jenny and I both identify as white. And I've done a lot of anti racist work, and I teach about this in my class as a sociology professor. And I just wanted to share with our audience one of the things that I always do with my students whenever we start having a discussion about race, because it's highly emotional and it can be volatile. And emotions range from anger to shame to pride to grief on both sides of the color line, right? Students who identify as white and those who are people of color who've had some lifelong experiences with oppression. And I try to diffuse it by saying, okay, I know that the white people in the room are really concerned because when we start talking about these issues, and we have to talk about them, that's the only way through this, is to try to have these conversations, is that white people are really afraid of being labeled a racist. And so, what I always say at the beginning of my discussions with my students is I say, okay, I'm going to let you off the hook just a little bit. Um, by telling you that, those of you who are in this room who are afraid that you are going to say or do something that's going to look, sound, feel racist, you are, because you are racist. It is impossible to be raised in this culture and not be racist, sexist, classist, homophobic, ableist, xenophobic. I mean, pick the category, right? All these dimensions of social inequality and social oppression. If you are in a privileged category in any one of those dimensions, you're going to, have internalized all of these cultural notions about what it means to be um, at a certain point in the hierarchy. And people who have been oppressed have internalized some of these messages as well. And so I just throw that out there for those of us who might be wanting to have conversations or wanting to figure out a way through. It's like you're going to make mistakes. You're going to say the wrong thing. Um, it's okay. That's part of what it's about. The question is, there's all this talk about being an ally. You don't want to be an ally. You need to do the work of an ally. And part of the work of an ally is educating yourself. I've sat in enough conversations with people of color and on these issues to know that they are exhausted. I've often heard people say, educate your damn self. It should not be my job to educate you on your system of oppression and how it impacts me. And that anger is justified. And so what I want to do is give people permission to have the hard conversations, to make mistakes, And we both want to give people a start. It's a sip out of a teaspoon of the ocean of things that you could read or listen to learn more about the experience of what it's like to be a person of color in the United States. And so we have created a list that we're going to share on our website. And in just a moment here, we're going to put up our placard that we normally use in our podcast to show you where to go. For those of you on the audio version, it's our website. It's www.heartandsoulsisters.net. That's all the words spelled out, heartandsoulsisters.net. And again, we'd love to hear your comments, feedback on what you're reading. If you want more resources, we can certainly point you. But it's really incumbent upon those of us who want to be part of the solution to really engage in the conversation and the educate ourselves, the process of educating ourselves.
Yes, and I just wanted to share listening to this wonderful podcast called Blacklight, Blacklite. These young men are speaking from their own experience, and one of the speakers on the podcast that I've been listening to the last couple of days said, it's not the job of the oppressed to to fix the oppression. It truly is the job of the oppressors. And he shared about how this is an institutional thing. It's not, we're not looking so just at one-on-one racism and oppression of whites over minorities, but how do we deal with these? I'm married to a wonderful cop who's heartbroken every time he sees these these types of oppression and brutality of whites, white officers committing against blacks and other minorities. But my husband's response is exactly what this young man said in the podcast. He's like, "Why didn't that boss, you know, address this officer's, hostile behavior in previous incidents? Why didn't the commander of that department address that? Why is this tolerance being allowed in our institutions in our country?" And that's where I think we, as people of privilege, need to look at ways of how can we make this better. And it comes from making our voices known
Yep.
and
First we have
taking
to know what we're
action.
talking about. First we have to
Yes,
educate
absolutely.
ourselves, and then we can add our voices to the chorus calling for
Exactly.
change right now. So I think we'll leave it right there. And again, you can go to our website to get more information. And wishing you all so much light and love and peace
And
and
peace,
peace.
yes.